Alright everyone, welcome back to week 5 now. I know I'm late, but to make it up, I'm going to be smashing both topics today so we cover up the days missed. Alright, so today is week 5 if else. Now, how does if else work? If else is actually a two option command. Print when you do example, let's take print for example. When you want to print something, it's just one thing. All right, you can just give it a one way answer. You can't say yes or no. If it's a question, you can only say one thing. But in if else, you can give both choices, and if one thing is followed, it goes that way, but if it's not followed, it goes another way. All right, so in our first few lines here, I give a number sequence. All right, so if it's a positive number, it prints that. All right, and so on. Alright. Now in the first few sequence, in the first four lines of code, alright, it's a positive number, it's 3. Now it checks it, alright, and if the checks are correct, then it prints both of the things. But in the last four lines of code, it's the opposite. It checks if the number is a positive, but it's not. So it just prints this is also always printed. Alright, it does not give the positive number, it just says it's not. Now that is how we work with if else. Now this can become even bigger. Alright, and now we move on to for loops, the next topic of, well, loops in week 5. So now first off is for loops. This is just like the same thing as if else, but it goes through a more repeated way. Like if it's one time wrong, if else is just two things. Alright, two, and think of it as two options, yes or no. But for loops, it's yes, no, maybe, sure, I guess, like that. Except in this everything goes properly, then it's completed. So in the list of numbers, we can see that I have made a list of numbers. Right now, the variable, like, we're storing something in there, and I have currently stored 0. Now, if all of the checks go to, well, I can test this. If you want to test this in an online compiler, you'll get 48, and when it runs all the checks and it gets 48, it says the sum is sum. Alright, now next is range in for loops. So now in this it's the same thing, but in this we mention range. So in the image provided, we use range in a variable to repeat a list and print them. So this loop repeats itself until all of the options and objects given are printed. Now let's start. We created genre. It's a list now, and we added pop, rock, and jazz in it. Now it'll iterate over them. Now we added range, so it prints all of those three options and says I like for that. So with range, it says 3 first of all. If you use len, alright, and then genre, it will give you 3 because there are 3 options in here, so it will print them all with I like before them. That's how we use range in for loops. Now next is else in loops. The student name is Soyuj, alright, and the marks are given for 3 other students, James, Jules, and Arthur. Now, well, Jules is pretty bad at the subject, but for now, let's move on. Now, the else place, okay, just ignore line 10 and 11 now, and focus on this. Now, it prints all of these 3 students, but you want to find Soyuj, and you can't find it, so you give the else command, and then it'll say no entry with that name found. Now, this is actually pretty fun in the mind, because in apps, like whenever you want to search on Google, when you search something that it's not on the Google like database, it'll give you the reply as, well, it's not found. Now that is pretty interesting. So this is one of the real life examples you can take. Alright, So that's it for these two topics in week 5. Thank you a lot for watching. I'll be seeing you next time. And if you don't know how to apply as a student, you can join our Discord server and the link in the description down below, and I can guide you after that. Thank you a lot. I'll be seeing you next time.